that high a percentage, but of the ones I've made deals with, I've decided that their handshake is good. We do not have contracts with, we have 70-some companies. There may be 1 or 2 contracts out there, but basically, you can't make a good deal with a bad guy.
Self-made billionaire Warren Buffett sharing one of the many secrets to success when he joined me recently. He is no doubt an even richer man tonight after the Dow Jones hit a record high of 16,000 today. It closed just off that mark at 15,976. Well, join me tonight, another world-class investor, His Royal Highness Prince Alwaleed bin Talal of Saudi Arabia, CEO of the Kingdom Holding Company, and the man known as the Arabian Buffett. Welcome to Your Royal Highness.
Pleasure to be with you.
I know you watched the interview with Warren Buffett and his son and grandson. What did you make of his views of how to do business? In other words, you can never do a good deal with a bad guy, and that with many people, a handshake is good enough for him.
Yeah, this is really Warren Buffett, really. It's the one-on-one business. It's just straightforward, to the point, not to make things too difficult, very straightforward, and that's why I like him, and just to click very well with him.
I actually emailed him today. You might like this. And I asked him to give me some questions for you, given that you are known as the Arabian Buffett. And the first one he said he'd be very interested to know, what is the #1 worry that you have about investing in American equities right now, given that you have so many stakes in so many great American companies, from Apple to Twitter to others?
Yeah, the big worry is not really from the economy itself or the business or the companies. The worry is that the political fight in Washington really impacts the stock market, impacts the sentiment in the United States. You know, we've seen how the deficit talk, budget deficit talk, and how the national debt talk almost really ruined the perception about investors on the United States. That's the big worry right now, really. It's not the economy, really, because one way or another, the American economy will survive because it's very resilient. The big worry is that the political fight and bickering between both parties will have an impact on the economy and the investor sentiment.
Do you still feel confident in the way the American economy is going, or do you share concerns that many people have that it could potentially, if they're not careful, rebound back into some kind of recession?
I have a lot of respect, and I have a lot of confidence for the U.S. economy, no doubt about that. Very resilient, and always comes out of all its downturns and recessions even stronger.
If you were running the show and Obamacare had gone the way that it's gone pretty disastrously, would you be firing people? Would you be making examples of people and saying we've got to start again with new people at the top?
If I were in the Obama administration, I would not really have it roll out before I'm so sure that all the ingredients of success are in order, because this is really a very transformational project. It's like the New Deal. It's like enrolling Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. This is really a huge transformation project, and unfortunately, it began on wrong footing. So clearly, Obama right now is not going to really rescind it or have it changed dramatically. He will for sure try to patch it up, and this is going to create more instability in the coming months or years to come.
One rollout that did go very well was Twitter, and you were a big investor. I think $300 million you staked in Twitter. Obviously, you've made a very handsome return, Your Royal Highness. Why did you like Twitter so much?
Yeah, for Twitter to be successful, hundreds of other social media companies have to fail. For Facebook or Google to be successful, hundreds of companies, if not thousands, had to fail. Really, we followed Twitter from the beginning. We liked the business model, yet we did not invest from the beginning because it was still at the venture capital level. We only invested in Twitter when it went out of the venture capital and became on the verge of maturing. Not mature yet, but it became maturing, because there's still a lot of discussion and on how it's going to monetize its business model and to make profit in the coming quarters.
You don't follow anybody?
Yet.
I'm waiting.
Okay, I'll follow.
I want to be the first person that you follow tonight.
You will be one of them, for sure.
Thank you very much. Briefly, before we go to the break, I also want to put the other question that Warren Buffett had for you, which is, he said, if he wants to be known as the Arabian Buffett, he may have to cut back a bit on his spending. What is your reaction to that second question from Warren Buffett? He wants you to stop spending so much money if you want to be like him.
I don't spend much money. On what does he mean by that?
I think he means, you know, you quite often get seen with very large palaces and yachts and all that kind of thing.
Tell him I will take his advice and implement it very fast. I can't say no to Warren.
Let's take a break. Let's come back and talk about the world stage. Particularly want to get your views on what's happening in the Middle East with Iran, Israel, Syria, and other big issues right now.
I always suggest to foreign leaders, to world leaders, when Israelis and Arabs are saying the same thing, and that doesn't happen very often, it's worthwhile paying attention. We're here, we're close to Iran, and we understand what Iran is doing.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warning against a potential nuclear deal with Iran on CNN's State of the Union. That deal for the UN Security Council to loosen sanctions against Tehran in exchange for suspending just part of its nuclear program. I want to now know what Prince Alwaleed bin Talal thinks of all this. As one of the great players in the Middle East, what do you make of what's going on here with this tension now clear tension between Netanyahu and what he believes is going on with Iran and America and everybody else?
Yeah, as Mr. Netanyahu said, that you rarely find the majority of the Arab world in complete sync and alliance with the concepts of Israel. And as far as Iran is concerned and its nuclear program, there's unanimity whereby the Arab world, and at least for Saudi Arabia and the Gulf region, are very much concerned and worried about the Iranian nuclear program, and even more so concerned about any concessions that the Obama administration may give Iran in its nuclear program, whereby the results of the economic sanctions that brought Iran to the negotiation tables disappear.
What about Syria? Do you trust Assad when he says he'll give up his chemical weapons?
It's not a matter of trust. That's the deal that Mr. Putin brokered between him and the U.S. administration was really a lifetime opportunity for him to survive. And, you know, he was on the verge of being hit by the U.S. and United States. So for sure he's going to give it up, and he did abide by the first phase of that of the decommissioning of his chemical weapons by destroying all the material that were used to build these chemical weapons, and which was November 1st. But now the next most important deadline is June, whereby by that deadline all his chemical weapons have to be destroyed.
In Saudi Arabia, clearly there's a clock ticking. The oil is running out, and America is beginning to pump out more and more oil and becoming much less reliant on any Saudi oil. Do you think people back in Saudi Arabia fully understand the dangers of what is going on here?
This is a very good question. It is very clear that the dependence of the United States on oil, and even the Western world, is diminishing. Actually, the United States is on the verge of being not only oil-sufficient country, but also being an oil exporter. So clearly, the dependence on oil is going to diminish because of the discoveries that are happening on oil and gas, classical oil and gas, and also the production in shale oil. So it's very important for the OPEC countries, and especially Saudi Arabia in this case, to have less dependence on oil. As it stands today, 92% of our budget depends on oil, which is really, it's a time bomb. It's a time bomb, and I'm being very public about that and vocal in Saudi Arabia, and pushing the ministers really to be alert to that situation, which is really very serious.
Prince Alwaleed, it's always good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for coming in, sir.
Pleasure to be with you. Thank you.